Phil Naessens Show is on in five, four, three, two, one.
Welcome to the Phil Naessens Show. I'm happy to have you here. It is a great day to talk NBA basketball, and that's what we're going to do for the entire hour. SLC Dunks managing editor Amar is in the house. He's on the line. Amar, what's up, man? How are you? Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks again for always having me. I'm doing great. How are you? That's the big question.
I'm feeling better. I think I told you this off air, but I probably shouldn't have worked the entire week. But, you know, I've got these ratings I try to keep up. And there's like 1,000 shows that want my spot. And I don't want to give up my spot. But I worked the last 3 days, but I missed Monday and Tuesday shows, and I really missed out because I enjoy talking basketball with all of you guys. But I really enjoy this show because we let it fly and let it hang out and have some fun. And we talk about the Utah Jazz. Now, how are the fellas doing?
Okay, the natives are a little bit less restless this week because the head coach Tyrone Corbin did something really, really cool in the last game. He actually played together on the court at the same time the 5 lottery picks from the last 3 or 4 drafts. And it actually turned out pretty well for the Jazz. They won a game. They beat the Washington Wizards, who were on a 2-game win streak and, you know, looking pretty good in the West. In the East, they were, I think, the 5th best team when they played. So with the Utah Jazz fans, it's like either tank and get a good pick or play the young guys so that they actually do play. Because what's the point of having them? Because otherwise, if you just keep them and don't play them, their trade value goes down and they end up becoming less successful players overall. And for Utah Jazz fans, we're happy. Trey Burke, Alec Burks, Gordon Hayward, Enes Kanter, and Derek Favors have now played a grand total of 31 minutes this season together.
Yippee!
Can you imagine 31 minutes together? The Jazz have played 45 games. Like, what were they waiting for? Next year?
I don't know what Ty Corbin waits for sometimes. But at least they're playing together, and they looked okay against Washington, didn't they?
Yeah, they got blitzed early. They were down 10-2, but they made a good recovery, and they actually finished the game for the Jazz, holding off John Wall. And, you know, it's very hard to do because he's at the peak of his career right now. So, and the main problem was that people suggested that they couldn't play on the floor together because of a number of minor reasons. One of them was that they didn't think that Enes Kanter and Derek Favors could play on the floor together, which is the only time they've ever played on the floor in the previous, 2 seasons. So I don't know why this problem would occur this year. The other issue was that people weren't so high on Alec Burks. We both were his entire career high on him, and he's shown that he can be a legitimate option on offense and defense at the shooting guard spot. So, I think that there is less and less reason to be wary of this lineup. Getting back to Tyrone Corbin, it seems like he's got a little bit of a stubborn streak. He kind of didn't want to resort to doing this because he was more interested in getting playing time for the veteran guys on his team who are in expiring contracts, like Richard Jefferson or Brandon Rush or Marvin Williams. So it's kind of funny because, he's stubborn in that way that he doesn't want to give in to what everybody else is saying. He actually had an interesting quote a while ago about going against trendy or conventional wisdom because he felt that it didn't pay off in the long run. But in the middle of doing that entire quote, he said that it would be trendy to play 2 bigs on defense, which is exactly the opposite of what trendy is, because that's always been what, let's say, the Knicks under Riley did back in the 90s with Ewing and Charles Oakley or even Anthony Mason. Playing big guys on defense isn't the trendy thing, and even Tyrone Corbin got that wrong. And he's the guy who starts with the small ball lineup. So he's a confused coach, but he did something good this week.
He sure did. I think a lot of what he does is all about his next job. He wants to still prove to people that he can coach and he can coach a team that's not so experienced and at least win some games with them. And he's done that so far with Utah, but he's finished at the end of the season. I think he has got to go, don't you?
Yeah, once again, that's conventional wisdom. If you actually listen to the local radio in Utah or read the local papers, it's nothing but unending compliments, and they defend him from critics. Like that wouldn't like the New York Knicks were nice to Van Gundy, but they let him fend for himself back in that first year when he was coach of the Knicks. That's not the case with Utah, and that's the confusing part. If Tyrone Corbin is a lame duck, if he's not going to be with the team next year, why are they dedicating so much time on air and so much column space to defending him every week? It's kind of funny because they never did that for Jerry Sloan. They didn't do that for the guy that Sloan replaced, Frank Layden. Why are they doing it for Ty? I guess he just needs the kid gloves.
Yeah, that could be. That could be. They just probably really like him. I think he's very popular, at least with the press, because he does give them nice quotes, and he's always nice to them, and he doesn't say too many negative things. So, you know what? Maybe they like him.
He's a really nice guy. He may even be an above-average assistant coach at the NBA level. I just think that this is his fourth year, with the things that we're seeing, he's progressing a little bit too slowly for me to be confident in him to be a great NBA head coach. I could easily be wrong. I'd be happy to be wrong. But he's a really nice guy. Maybe his job is to be a great assistant coach.
There's nothing wrong with that, by the way.
Some guys do really well.
Some guys really do well. And, something, he does have things to offer. He played in the NBA. He knows how to play the game. I just think he's just in way over his head, and he's trying to swim to the top of the ocean, and he's just not getting there.
Yeah, well, to defend him now, I think it's a little bit unfair that he's trying to prove his worth as a coach, but at the same time, the front office didn't exactly give him the best roster to work with. And you could argue that the Utah Jazz front office planned on being bad this year. You don't make a blockbuster trade to get Andres Biedrins on your team then expect to win 50 games. So, Ty is trying to do the best that he can. He's trying to win every game. He's definitely not in on the tank, as some people may have suggested, but it's just a no-win situation for him. I feel bad, but more than that, I'm a Jazz fan. I care about the guys who are going to be with the Jazz, and if he's not one of them, then we should switch our focus from him towards these young guys and talk about them a little bit more, maybe.
Well, I would think so. I want to see those five on the floor a lot more often than they have been. And they seem to be playing okay, though. They're not as bad or as useless as some people like to claim that they are. But, they've had their ups and downs. And then this coming week, this is going to air after they played Sacramento. But they have Golden State and the Clippers. And then they have White Vegas coming into town. And then Dallas, Miami, and the Lakers. And it's going to be interesting the next few weeks. And we'll just have to see. I guess it's just all about patience. This is a good little nucleus. They've really drafted well. They might not have drafted any franchise changers as an individual player, but I think what they've done is they've drafted well enough that this unit can change the franchise together.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of Utah Jazz fans have that Sacramento game circled because the Kings are they're a good measuring stick because they're another small market team. Their best player is also a player from the 2010 draft, I think it was, and DeMarcus Cousins. They traded for Rudy Gay. They're not necessarily trying to tank. They're trying to win games. They've got an interesting lineup as well. And they're, like I said, another small market team that's in the West that a lot of people don't really care about that much. Both of these teams, as of this recording, have 15 wins. So that's definitely going to be a game that the Jazz fans are going to be interested in, especially because they always want to see Derek Favors do well against DeMarcus Cousins. And for the most part, it's been a pretty interesting matchup between those two guys.
Absolutely, it has. The Northwest Division, I got to say, the talk of the Northwest Division is Kevin Durant. I don't know what's gotten into that kid, but he's not only scoring, but his assists are up. And this is what gets lost with the national media, I think, is how much better he makes those teammates around him. I think he's doing fabulous. What do you think of his Kevin Durant eruption?
Yeah, I think the easy thing is to look at his points, but like you said, it's more than just the points. He's absolutely controlling the ball. And maybe this is a good thing that Russell Westbrook has been in and out this season. Kevin Durant is getting more of an opportunity to display other parts of his game that previously would be like, oh, well, why is he passing? He should just be shooting it because he doesn't get the ball all the time. He's getting the ball all the time now, and he's showing that he can draw in defenders. He can make amazing passes. He had a great dish to Perry Jones III in the last game he played. And yeah, like he's scoring a lot. That's what Carmelo Anthony's doing with the Knicks right now. But Durant is taking it to that next level by distributing a lot as well. He's kind of playing like a Magic Johnson out there. It's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, skinny Magic Johnson. But I'll tell you what,
right.
if Kevin Durant ever gets a post-up game, because, he shoots, not every shot is going to fall. He has his nights where he struggles, too, with his shot. But if he ever develops a post-up game, goodbye. You're talking about all-time leading scorer stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of the same criticism that people had about LeBron James as well, if he ever developed a post-up game. And I think Durant probably would benefit more of that because he's just not the athletic freak that LeBron is. And LeBron kind of has like a better handle, better court vision at this stage. But in order to maintain his amazing scoring, I think Kevin will definitely benefit if he just got even that Jordan turnaround jumper from a post-up. If he can hold his spot in the paint around mid-range and just turn and shoot, he's going to be scoring 20 points a game well into his late 30s, if not farther.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, Portland, they have not shown any signs of slowing down whatsoever. They're for real, aren't they? I happen to believe that they are absolutely for real, especially at home. They're rolling people.
Yeah, Portland they kind of came out of nowhere because okay, well, they're a good team. They're a good team. In the last few years, they were always trying to make the playoffs as one of the later seeds. But this year, they're just dominant. They're actually 7-2 in the Northwest Division. So they're beating all of the other teams. And they're definitely right up there. I think it's more about the entire team coming up to help LaMarcus Aldridge instead of it being LaMarcus Aldridge lifting everybody else up. And I think that's that support that he didn't have. And you can contrast it completely with what's happening in Oklahoma City because Kevin Durant is doing everything to get his team running. Whereas in Portland, you have Lillard, you finally have a good bench with Mo Williams and those guys. You have Wesley Matthews playing the best basketball of his entire career. They're a real team this year. And it's not just, the flashy guys on offense. You got Robin Lopez on defense. They're taking care of their defensive glass. They're a lot of fun to watch because they play basketball the right way, and it's not just one guy doing it.
Rip City is back.
Yeah, and as a Jazz fan, it's always tough to see that because they were always our nemesis in the playoffs. I don't think we've ever beat them in the playoffs before.
Well, you know what? You won't have to worry about that this season, but and one thing that yes, and that's a good thing for Utah Jazz fans. They don't want to see Portland.
Thank you. Give us Wiggins or Jabari. I'm all right. You guys go ahead and get beaten up by the Pacers or the Heat.
Wiggins might not even be the best freshman on his own team right now.
Yeah, exactly. That's how weird the draft is.
It's going to be very strange, and there's a long time to go, and we'll talk to you when you go to the Combine and sort it out, and who knows, maybe I'll be there too. And that'll be fun. We can go hang out and learn some things. But I like this Portland team. I have from the beginning. I thought when they signed Robin Lopez that it would free LaMarcus Aldridge up, and it has. And that's a good thing for them. And Lillard is killing people. And this is just a good team. But how will they do in the playoffs? Well, we'll just have to wait and see. In Denver's kind of trying to fight their way back. But they still seem to me like a team that probably should be looking to tank, but they don't seem to want to, and I don't get Brian Shaw's philosophy. Does he have the same philosophy as Tyrone Corbin? He wants to prove he can coach in the NBA?
I think that's really what most first-year coaches want, is they want to show that they deserve it, especially with a guy like Shaw or Corbin. Those are guys who had, interviewed so many times before for other vacant head coaching spots, and they always pick somebody else. So I think they have also developed a chip on their shoulder where they're like, all these other teams passed up on me to be their head coach. I want to prove myself. I want to prove that no matter what situation I'm in, I can succeed. And that may be why he's kind of had that hard-headed stance against Andre Miller. But I'm with you, man. Like, they just had bad news with Danilo Gallinari again with his injury. This, like, if the team was completely healthy, then I say go for it. But I don't know what there is to gain. And this is kind of like the other thing, that right below Denver is Minnesota. And I think Minnesota is going to try and go all out. And they're a very interesting team that reloaded. And they're technically much healthier right now. Denver should probably think, do we really want it that bad? What are we going to get if we get into the playoffs? To get obliterated by one of the top 3 seeds in the West? Isn't that what we've been doing the last 5 years anyway? I don't see how it helps them.
Yeah, you're right. And you bring up Minnesota, and we'll be taking a closer look at them on tomorrow's show. But I've lost track of how many games they've lost by 4 points or less. And you have to start to wonder why that is. And they're healthy this year, and they did retool. They picked up Kevin Martin. They signed Corey Brewer. They've got a very good, or they should have a very good nucleus. Ricky Rubio is healthy. Pekovic is playing like a freaking all-star. In fact, I put Pekovic on my all-star team and caught all kinds of hell for that because I left.
I definitely think he's an all-star as well. Like, he made Derek Favors and Ennis Cantor look like little boys when we just played 2 straight games against Minnesota and they just dominated us inside.
He's done that to a lot of guys, and I left Kevin Love off my team for reasons that you already know why. I don't really like the guy. And you know what my hope is for Minnesota is that they realize that it doesn't matter if they're healthy or injured. They don't really change in the wins and loss department. They don't deliver. And there has to be a reason for that. And that reason is the guy they have averaging 25 and 13. Because when it counts, when the game is on the line, and like I said 100 times, they've lost so many games, Amar, by 4 points or less, you lose track. Where is Kevin Love in those crucial situations? He just doesn't seem to be there, does he?
No, he definitely doesn't. And I'm sensing a pattern here because it's like a Rick Adelman team. They're going to be really good, but for some reason, one of the guys that you need to rely on, it just isn't there. And we saw that back when he was with the Houston Rockets. We saw that a little bit back when he was with the Portland Trailblazers, and he's been all over. And I don't know, maybe he's just born under a bad star or something because he's unlucky. Because Kevin Love, this guy who by all logic should be able to produce at least half of what he's doing in the big games, he just completely disappears. Or he conveniently has another injury where he's doing a push-up and gets hurt. It has to be in a cast. Like, Charles Oakley would have destroyed him if they ever played against one another.
Oh, yeah. And that's just it, and I try to explain that to people. Now, he does like to bang around down there, but when the game is on the line, he's nowhere to be found. And like I said, we'll be talking more about Minnesota tomorrow because I have a great fan club now.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. They told me, I had one person tell me that I just should shut up and be a host and just let people who know what they're talking about do the talking. And I'm thinking to myself, I did this show for 3 years by myself and got on the radio all alone. You guys have made it better. I mean, what, are you kidding me? But I know a little bit. But let's move over real quick to the Pacific. The Clippers, minus Chris Paul, these guys are on a roll. They're playing awfully well. Obviously, they play well at home. But it's their road record. It's 13-12. It's not so great. But they've won 8 of the last 10 at the time of this recording. I'm starting to become a believer and the Clippers minus Chris Paul.
Yeah, I think it's something that you either saw coming or is completely new to you. But if you follow it like we follow it, we knew that, okay, Chris Paul is going to be out, but they went out and got Darren Collison. Sure, he doesn't have as flashy a name right now as Eric Bledsoe, but Collison was Chris Paul's understudy back when they were with the Hornets, and he's a very good guard by himself. Furthermore, what they're getting right now is that they're getting their shooters healthy. At the beginning of the season, they had a bunch of guys banged up or just not being able to play. Right now, they got JJ Redick, and he's shooting like a machine. When you have a guy like that making the most out of every opportunity with all of his open jumpers, you're obviously going to be a great offensive team because you're not missing anything. Sure, Chris Paul is able to create, but they're definitely a better team right now. If you just look at the substitution, healthy shooters and Darren Collison versus non-healthy shooters and Chris Paul. Chris Paul's a great guy, great player, Hall of Famer in the future, but when they come back, they're going to be something crazy because right now they're looking really good.
And that's just it. Right now they are looking real good. And Golden State is also, this is a team that's kind of strange to me. They go on these tears and then they go on these awful outputs. But that's the nature of the beast when you're a three-point shooting team like they are. But the Bombs Away boys are still in second place in the Pacific. I like this team, though. I still think that they're going to do some damage. They're going to surprise someone in the playoffs.
I'm actually surprised already because we all assume that, okay, well, Mark Jackson, he's an offense-only coach, and they have a team that is built for going bombs away. But they're actually, out of the current playoff teams in the West, they're one of the better defensive teams if you look at their points against. It's under 100 points per game. And there's only 4 or 5 teams in the entire Western Conference who can say that. So kudos to Golden State. I think their defense really changed when they got, a somewhat healthy Andrew Bogut, but also Andre Iguodala. I tried to overlook these things like health or signings or trades because I'm not necessarily a Golden State fan, but they are kind of making me a believer too, which I kind of don't like admitting as a Jazz fan. Because as a Jazz fan, we would prefer that they miss the playoffs because we would then get their pick. Or we do have their pick, period, and it would be awesome if it was a lottery pick. But, they're hard to predict. They're 5-5 in their last 10 games. They win games they shouldn't win, and they lose games that they shouldn't lose. This is probably a telltale sign of a team that's on the rise and has, its best days ahead of them.
Those are all good thoughts. What about Phoenix? Phoenix, I'm starting to believe that the bubble is about to burst in Phoenix. They've gone 4-6 in their last 10. They're playing okay at home, but on the road they're awful. In the division, they're 6-3. Conference, they're 18-12. But is this team a team that is going to wind up in the playoffs? Because to me, they don't seem like a playoff team right now, and I don't think it's going to get much better.
Yeah, I would bet against them making the playoffs. Like, they are currently winning some games that I don't think are repeatable wins. Like, I'm not saying that they're a bad team. They're obviously, the surprise of the Western Conference this year. But I don't know if the way that they're winning games is something that is going to be able to be sustained as the next few months go on, especially with their injuries. Like, unless something crazy happens, like the Morris twins start to blow up or Channing Frye becomes the next Dirk or something. But like, Phoenix is probably cresting right now, and they're going to go downhill. And that's probably for the best because they showed the world that, hey, we can win in the Western Conference when we're healthy. Reward us with a lottery pick so that we can be even better next year.
Exactly. That's what I would do. And we've only got about 25 seconds. And we have Sacramento and the Lakers. There's not much really to talk about there. I like Boogie Cousins and I like Isaiah Thomas. I think they've got the makings there for a decent team next year. But right now they're awful. And the Lakers, oh, Maron, I don't even know what to say except sayonara. It's going to be very strange not having the Lakers in the playoffs. Tell you what, we'll be right back. And when we do, we're going to take a look at the Southwest. And then we'll hit the East. And we'll be right back. You're listening to The Phil Naessens Show.
This is the Phil Naessens Show.
And it's the reason Al Gore invented the internet.
And we'll be right back after these brief announcements.
Do you know your fantasy sports? Would you like to make money at it? DraftStreet.com and the Phil Naessens Show would like to help you get started making money playing fantasy sports today. And we'll even give you the chance to get started making money today for free. On me. That's right. All you have to do is head on over to PhilNaessens.com or visit the show notes for this show. Click the Draft Street image at the top of the page and start making money playing fantasy sports at DraftStreet.com today.
Hi, this is Phil Naessens from This Week in Tennis and the Phil Naessens Show. Max Sports Channels offers the best in sports talk radio, as well as great music 24 hours a day. It's my daily destination, and I hope it's yours. The sports talk begins each and every day at 3 p.m. and ends around 9 p.m. Special programming on the weekends. And in between all that, the hottest music on the internet. That's Max Sports Channels. Make it your daily destination.
Brewtown Sports is your source for Brewers news and notes. Join Mr. Brewtown as he keeps you up to date on all the happenings of your Milwaukee Brewers and Major League Baseball. Follow the show on Facebook and Twitter, Brewtown Sports. Listen 24/7 at brewtownsports.podomatic.com.
Riveting talk radio.
People cannot get away from the internet.
Well, I think it probably comes from porn as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be a big, strong thing.
Oh, that's gross. That's disgusting.
And it freaks me out.
My cheeks are sealed.
We love talk radio.
Bend over, baby.
Do you see what I'm saying?
WeirdTalkSuperstation.com.
Better than sex.
I don't know how good sex is.
We're going to do a lot of drinking.
Talk radio. Bend over, baby. That was great.
If you like baseball, you should be checking out baseballpodcasts.net. It's one of the best places you can go on the internet to listen to independent baseball talk shows. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on our radio player that can be heard around the world. So won't you tune in and give us a listen at baseballpodcast.net. You can also listen to the great Phil Naessens Show here. See you there at baseballpodcast.net.
Stitcher Smart Radio is an award-winning, free mobile application that lets you listen to your favorite shows and discover the best of news, entertainment, and sports on demand. Now you don't even need a Wi-Fi or a cell connection to listen to shows like The Phil Naessens Show. Never miss another show. It's real simple. Just go to Stitcher.com and download the free app today. And never miss another Phil Naessens Show.
Hi, this is Gary Mack of Mets Musings, and I hope you'll join me each and every week as I recap all of the comings and goings-on in New York Mets baseball. I'll have guests on from all across Mets Nation, giving their insights and analysis on the New York Mets. And you can follow me on Twitter at Mets Musings 1, as well as on Facebook. The group name is Mets Musings. So tune in weekly to the Mets Musings, available at MetsMusings.com, Stitcher.com, iTunes.com, iHeartRadio, and of course, BaseballTalkRadio.com, the home of great baseball talk shows.
And now back to the Phil Naessens Show.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, as always, this stuff in lieu of actual entertainment.
Welcome back to the Phil Naessens Show, and once again I'm joined by SLCDunk.com's managing editor, Amar. He's on the line. Amar, we've got the Southwest Division. San Antonio, they're like the walking wounded. They're down 3 starters. They had a tough time against Miami, but they're still rocking and rolling in the Southwest. They just don't miss a beat, do they?
No, they definitely don't. And I think it's a testament to their entire organization, from their scouting department all the way down to their trainers, and that of course includes their coaches and their players. It's just, they're really well run. And like, all of the Spurs fans have nothing to be ashamed about by losing to, one of these flashier teams on the road when you're not playing with three of your best defensive players. So the Spurs, they could just go on autopilot for the rest of the year, and I wouldn't be surprised if they still ended up with the number 1 seed in the West.
No, I wouldn't be surprised either. I'm not surprised at all. They just keep humming and humming, and they're doing their thing, and that's what they do. It's the Spurs way. Like I said, they don't miss really a beat, and the whole franchise is the reason why. It starts from the top all the way to the last guy on the bench. They know their roles, and they go out and do them, and that's why they're a tough team. Now, I'm not so sure they're going to wind up the number 1 seed in the West, but they'll be right up there. There's no doubt. Now, Houston's another team. They took a real good shot by Memphis 2 nights in a row. Houston, I'll tell you what, I'm waiting for them to blow up. I really am. I can feel it. I've been predicting it all season. Something's going on with the beard and the weird.
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused as to what's happening with them as well. The obvious idea is that on paper they should be a little bit better than they are. But at the same time, it's their first year together. Should we be disappointed by the fact that they're number 2 in one of the hardest divisions in basketball? I don't know. I'm actually a little bit more wary about their defense. Like, sure, they have got Dwight Howard right now, but is he really going to be able to make everything happen on himself? Because he's got 2 guys on the perimeter who don't play any defense in Lin and Harden. And I guess this is probably the bigger question that Houston fans don't want to talk about is, what's Kevin McHale going to do with Omer Ashik? Are they going to have to do something between now, him and Daryl Morey, until the trade deadline? Because he's not a happy camper.
No, he's not, and he's out too. But is he really injured? I don't think so. They're just keeping him out of the way.
Yeah.
But it makes no sense, man. It really doesn't make much sense. When they tried to put these two together, I said this is not going to work because they're just 2 different types of players, really. Both of them can bang. Both of them can do their thing. But honestly, Omar Ashik is more cerebral than Dwight Howard. You never know what Dwight's going to do. But that's a good observation about their guards. And that's going to be their downfall, by the way. Those 2, Jeremy Lin and James Harden, don't play a lick of defense. They don't want to.
What happens if Golden State and Houston face each other in the playoffs?
Golden State knocks them out.
Exactly. And that's because of defense.
That's the only reason. And when that floor is spread, you've got David Lee taking care of his business. I tell you what, Golden State would give them a beating, a regular old-fashioned beatdown. There's no question about that at all in my mind. And I don't know what Houston can do to stop it because you're not going to get guys like Lin and Harden to play defense. It's just not part of who they are. Okay,
like if you couldn't get them to play defense in New York, what would change in Houston, right?
You know what? And he could cover that pretty easily because of Linsanity. He was exciting to what he was doing, but Linsanity 2.0 has not happened yet, and it's not going to happen in Houston. There's just too many egos, and everyone wants the ball. And I feel sorry for Chandler Parsons because he's playing like an all-star some nights too, and it just looks like a team that's off the boil. And it's Terrence Jones. I think he's another one that's a pretty good player.
Yeah, no, they have a good roster. Yeah, they also have if we're going to look at Houston, I would probably change up who's starting for them too. But that's just me. I think Lin should come off the bench, and they should go with what's his name? I'm forgetting it now. Isaiah Kennett or Aaron Brooks,
Patrick Beverly, even somebody.
Yeah, Beverly for sure. Beverly has looked like a stud at times. But I'm worried about Houston. I don't think that they're going to mesh together, and I think that you're hitting it. Like, you can build good players, but can the players come together and be a team? And I think that's the problem. That Lynn is used to Linsanity. Harden was this big guy that every team drooled for and wanted, and Houston made the play for him. And, he's like, I'm the man now. I'm not behind Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. And, Dwight Howard has never made it known that he could be a team player. Even if he was on a team with 3 or 4 guys better than him, he would always end up being the jerk.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. And they're going to have a big, big problem up there. The team that's kind of, I don't know what to even think about them sometimes, is the Dallas Mavericks. A lot of people aren't talking about them. They're playing 500 ball. Monte Ellis has tailed off a bit. But where do you see Dallas fitting into all this? Because I think, honestly, Dallas is a better basketball team than Houston, but I don't think they're going to be able to demonstrate it.
No, they're probably going to end up with a lower record, but I still see Dallas as a playoff team this year for sure. I think that this is a testament to Carlisle. He can bring in all these guys on the downsides of their careers, like Calderon and Vince Carter, and just Devin Harris if he ever gets healthy and starts to contribute. Like all these guys who are on the downsides of their career, and bring them together for a common goal and play team basketball. And I think that's the difference. When you watch Houston, it's ISO, ISO, ISO. When you watch Dallas, you have people moving without the ball and stuff. It's a more fun team to watch, and I think that you're right. They are a better team. It just, may not happen that way according to the wins and loss record.
Yep, I agree. Now, Memphis is hotter than a pistol. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games. I think Memphis is a team we need to keep an eye on, because if they can continue in knocking off Houston back-to-back, winning their first 2 games in their division for the entire season, watch out for Memphis. They have a pretty good schedule coming up, a lot of East Coast teams, and I think Memphis is going to make their push. What do you think?
Yeah, well, especially with their health injuries resolving themselves. Like they've always had 1 or 2 guys out for the entire season. That seems to be the case with Darrell Arthur back when he was with the Grizzlies every year. And thankfully, they're not that hampered because they have Marc Gasol back now. And he definitely changes that team from being like, okay, well, they're a tough team to beat, to being they're a team that tough teams can't beat. And Memphis is definitely going to make that push. They're definitely gunning for the playoffs. I'm not going to be surprised if they push Phoenix out. That's probably what your top 8 is going to be. Just take Phoenix out, put Memphis in. Yeah,
I agree with you completely. And one last team here, the New Orleans Pelicans. They just had some tough times. Tyreek Evans has been a disappointment this season. And Drew Holiday being hurt and losing Davis for that amount of time. They lost the left-handed kid. Oh, come on.
Ryan Anderson.
And they're just in real trouble. So, you know what? Maybe we'll talk about them in more depth next week. Move over to the East, Amar. The Atlantic Conference, or the Atlantic Division. Toronto. White Vegas is in first place, but look out for the Brooklyn Nets. What in the world? Brooklyn is going to town now, aren't they?
Yeah, first of all, no disrespect, Matt, but nobody expected this to be the case during the season, that it would be Toronto then Brooklyn. Like, everyone expected, the Knicks would be in the mix, Boston would be last, and everything like that. But, Brooklyn, they are playing better basketball. They're almost earning half of their paychecks right now. There's no way that they can earn their paychecks with how much they're all getting paid. But Brooklyn is definitely coming out strong right now, and they have to, because if people are going to look at them as anything other than, a bunch of high-priced underachievers, they're going to have to start winning some of these games. They have to be above 500. And, last time I checked the win-loss record, there's still a few games under. So they really need to start winning now.
Oh, exactly. I completely agree. And Andrei Kirilenko, he's actually playing to what he should have been paid in the first place. He's come in and played well, and they have to make their move. New York, Carmelo Anthony, 62 points, But again, we'll talk about them tomorrow too in greater depth because the listener wanted to know what I think of the Knicks. And honestly, they're 5-5 in their last 10 games. They've had an atrocious home record. They're not much better on the road, but they seem to play good sometimes. But Carmelo, myself, and Melo is now playing for that contract.
Yeah, he is. And it's pretty obvious that there's a huge disconnect between what's happening. Bargnani has not lived up to expectations. Amari Stoudemire, definitely not. Just entirely down the roster. Even Melo hasn't been that good. And I guess if everyone is not playing well together, the alpha dogs are going to be like, well, I'm going to get my shots up. Screw you guys. And I think that we're definitely seeing that. Spike Lee can't be too happy with what he sees.
Neither is Phil Naessens. I gave up on him. I don't even want to watch them anymore because they just make me irritated because they're so dysfunctional. It's really bad when Tyson
J.R.
Chandler.
Smith?
Oh, forget about him. Oh Lord, you're making my fever come back. But
yeah, I won't be asked to come back next week.
Oh, you will, Ben. Don't worry. I'll heal in the week. Don't worry. Tomorrow I'm gonna blow a gasket on this show. But seriously, here's the thing: when Tyson Chandler goes into the press and says we do way too much switching, we should only switch when it's an emergency, and that's the way Mike Woodson plays defense. It's all jump switch, jump switch, jump switch like a high school team.
Right, like there's the Atlanta Hawks where everybody's 6'7" to 6'8".
Yeah, he's got a big problem there. But we'll talk more about the Knicks tomorrow. Boston, Rondo's back. Do you think they're going to keep Rondo? Because it looks like, to me, Danny Ainge is trying to clean house, and he's doing something really good over there. That guy has got a Santa Claus sack full of draft picks, man. They ought to call a cop for what he's done.
It's going to be the NBA draft presented by the Boston Celtics. I think that you don't get rid of Rondo because you know what his value is, and his value is higher to the Celtics right now than it could be to other teams. If Rondo continues to play well, and he looked like Rondo in his last game when he had 8 assists. His shot is still a shot. It's not a make, it's a shot. But that's been Rondo for a while now. I wouldn't necessarily trade him, but I do know that Danny Ainge, he is cleaning house. If he gets close enough to what he believes is market value, he would move probably anyone on his team, except maybe Jeff Green, or even maybe Jeff Green. Who knows? Because if you're starting fresh, he could easily start with an entirely freshman starting line next year with all the draft picks he's got.
Oh, yeah. Danny Ainge would trade his mother if he got a good pick for her. But that's neither here nor there. In Philadelphia, they've come down to earth, and they're playing the way we thought they would. But they were still a lot of fun at the beginning of the season. Michael Carter-Williams is a lot of fun to watch. But the Central, this Central, gosh, the whole East is really bad. But the Central, Indiana is killing everyone.
Yeah, it's not even a race.
It's not a race.
It's just not even a race at all.
Good grief. They're 21-1 at home. And then you got Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland. Let's go to Cleveland, because Cleveland is a team that you would think would be okay, and they just are not. Is it because Mike Brown can't coach?
Well, that's probably the easy answer. I think that they're a little bit – with Brown, they've always been a little bit more defensive focused, and he's kind of let the offense be what it can be based upon the abilities of, star players. So when Mike Brown was with the Lakers, their offense was horrible, and he kind of expected things to happen just because he had good players. When, LeBron was there in Cleveland, the offense didn't look so bad. There's probably a little bit too much pressure there on Kyrie Irving to get things done. He's not getting the support from guys like Dion Waiters. Bynum has come and gone. And, they've got a lot of other holes. Like CJ Miles can only do so much because he's an inconsistent shooter off the bench. Anderson Varejao was never an offensive player. So I actually wouldn't say that you would have thought that Cleveland would be okay. I was always a little bit worried about Cleveland just because of Mike Brown.
I figured they'd be okay, honestly. I thought Kyrie Irving would take it to the next level. And,
I thought Detroit would be okay because they had all those veterans. But they
there you
looked
go.
like trash some games.
Well, I call them the Rucker Park Street Legends 2.0 because
and that is exactly what they are.
And that's what they are. Brandon Jennings and Josh Smith, they're exciting players, but that's all they are. They're just players. They're not team players. They don't like. Okay, Jennings gets his assists and all, but they don't play defense. They don't work hard. They just do their thing, and if things don't go their way, they go south. And that's a pity, but you're right, man. I thought Detroit would be a lot better than what they are. Now, I thought Chicago would be a lot better than what they were, too, but when they lost Derrick Rose, things didn't go well. But Joakim Noah is really playing well right now, and that's a good thing for them. It really is. DJ Augustin is really playing pretty well, too. Chicago's going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, Chicago could even be a threat to get first, home court in the first round. Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with my language skills today. And I think
okay.
It is because it's definitely Noah. Like Thibs' teams is always about defense. They were able to move Dang, but not miss a beat because of these younger guys coming in who were groomed to exactly do this. Keep up with their defense, keep up with the team concepts, and keep winning basketball games. And that's probably like the difference between Chicago and Detroit. Like with Detroit, they have the guys they play the most are basketball players, not necessarily basketball winners. They don't win games. With Chicago, they've gone out there and they've built a team of people who will just win games. And they'll win games, bad games. They'll win games hurt. They'll win games that they shouldn't win, even when they should lose. And I think that you're seeing that. Like, they're above 500. They're playing without their best player for, what is it, the third straight season now? Like, you got to tip your hat to Chicago. They're going to be a tough out. And it's definitely defensive-oriented with Noah just being a beast right now. He should be an all-star.
He really should. And the thing is this, too, is people are talking about Thibodeau taking that Doc Rivers move and going somewhere else because they think that he doesn't want to rebuild, and I don't think he wants to go anywhere. He's got the decent nucleus. They'll probably amnesty Boozer at the end of the year or in the off season, and they'll do all right. I like Chicago though, man, and I think Chicago's going to be okay. They just had a run of bad luck. And Milwaukee, there's not really much to say there. That's just, good Lord. I feel sorry for Milwaukee, but not really. They're going to get the lottery pick, so maybe we'll see Jabari Parker and the Greek Freak side to side and see what those young fellas can do. Now, what about the Southeast? There's a couple of teams there, probably 3 of those teams that are going to more than likely make the playoffs. Miami, they were having trouble, and I noticed this the other day, or I heard this or something, where LeBron James has played more minutes without Dwayne Wade than with him this season. Dwayne Wade has played less minutes than Tim Duncan, and Dwayne Wade is 5 years younger. What does that mean for LeBron James next season?
Yeah, I think if you're looking at is there a big 3 here? Can you still be expected to be the dominant force? You have to really look at who you're playing with. And if Wade is only going to further degrade year by year, if they're going to manage his minutes and, he's not, he's been injured, he's been banged up, but it's not like he's 38-year-old Michael Jordan out there. He should be still playing as hard as he can. And I don't know if LeBron is going to be getting that from Wade. And to look at it from Wade's perspective, why is he playing so much? If it only counts in the finals, and if LeBron can get you there without you playing 50 games every year, why would you play the extra 32? So I guess with Wade, he's kind of riding the coattails of LeBron, and LeBron's like, hey, I came to this team to play on a team where you would be helping me out, because he already did the I'm the only guy who can play basketball thing back in Cleveland. LeBron may be looking for an out then. And to be honest, if the Heat get to the finals this year, win or lose, LeBron should still be looking at what his market value is. Because over the last 3 years or 4 years, however long it's been, I think that you could argue that he was underpaid. Now, does that mean that I think anybody should be paid as much as he could be? No, but in terms of winning when it counts, you hate the Heat or you love the Heat, you have to respect that they've actually won a lot. So kudos to LeBron. Wade needs to suck it up and play more.
Yep, I agree with you too. You know what? And he won't get his money unless he stays in Miami. Unless, of course, he goes to LA and he takes that acting thing to the next level. But we'll have to see about them. I don't know, man. But you know what? Miami's very lucky that they have Chris Bosh, because if they lose him for an extended period of time, that's when the real trouble's going to begin. Because Bosh did a number on San Antonio on Sunday, and Bosh comes through. People talk crap about Bosh a lot, but Bosh was an all-star. He probably should be an all-star this season, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's it. Like, the focus in the first few years was on LeBron and Wade, but I think Bosh has been that guy who's been a little bit more reliable. In the conference finals last year, he was the guy who was hitting the three-pointers with the shot clock expiring to make sure that they could even get to the finals. And I think that, as we just saw on Sunday's game, when his shot is on, when he's an active part of the offense, the Heat are able to tread water a little bit longer when, some of their other starters aren't picking up the pace or aren't contributing. And I guess that's what you want from your third best player, is to be good enough to be the second best player on any given night. And I think that's kind of what the Miami Heat are getting this year from Bosh. We still like to make fun of him, though, and he's a kind of goofy guy, but he's definitely balling right now.
He absolutely is. We've got a couple minutes left, and we want to talk about Atlanta a bit. Atlanta's going to probably make the playoffs as well. And Washington, too.
Paul Millsap.
Paul Millsap is. Yeah, Paul Millsap has been playing really well, dude.
Yeah, and like, you'd think that he would have suffered without having Horford around, but with Horford out, he seemed to pick his game up. And I'm sorry for shouting and interrupting you so much. I'm just really happy for Paul Millsap. He was a Utah Jazz draft pick, second round pick number 47. So a lot of teams passed up on him, and it would be really awesome if he makes the All-Star team this year for Atlanta. They may get it because they're number 3 in the East right now.
Oh, yeah, and don't worry about shouting. I agree with you. He's played well. And Washington is one of those teams where who knows what can happen. I think health is a big issue there with them. They have a really good nucleus down there. I just think that they need one more piece to that puzzle. John Wall plays pretty well, though. I like John Wall.
Yeah, he's a one-man wrecking crew. He can win games by himself at this stage. And like Trevor Ariza's, like a 3-and-D guy. He's a prototype 3-and-D guy. What I really like is their pairing of Nene and Marcin Gortat. Those are two, throwback big men. They get rebounds. They like to score in the paint. They like to bang. And, they could be a good bodyguard system for John Wall. If John Wall is getting hit by too many picks or gets hit on drives, they can put the lumber out as well.
Oh, yes, they can, my friend. Yes, they can. I tell you what, great stuff today. Thank you so much for being on the show with me.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
That was Amar, and you can find him over at slcdunk.com, and I insist that you do. And that's going to wrap it up for today's Phil Naessens Show. I want to thank Amar for taking the time out of his busy schedule to be here with us to talk a little hoops with me. It was a lot of fun, as always. Tomorrow we're going to take a closer look at the Knicks, and we're going to take a closer look at the Minnesota Timberwolves, and we're going to look at the USA All-Star team, or I should say Team USA, and that should be fun as well. Until then, you all take care of yourselves. Be good. And most importantly, thanks for listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, my mother thanks you. My father thanks you. My sister thanks you. And I thank you.
You just listened to a pre-recorded edition of The Phil Naessens Show. Like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter at FlashTennis31. Thanks for listening, and see you tomorrow.